Mm. What up, everybody? How's it going? Woo! All right. Today is Friday morning, July 26th, 2019. That means Quentin Tarantino's new movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, has hit the theaters. It has arrived last night. As you know, movies now arrive every Thursday preview night. So users reviews or people's ordinary moviegoers reviews have been coming in addition to the critics reviews, which you've seen mine of course. You've watched my video review of Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood right here earlier this week, so thank you for watching that. So I figured right now is as good a time as any to discuss the spoilers. All right. Believe it or not, hey, what up, Robert? Good morning to you too. Robert is one of Rama's screen patrons, so I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for tuning in. Believe it or not, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has a twist ending. Yeah, that's right. Move over, M. Night Shyamalan. Step aside, M. Night Shyamalan. Your Sixth Sense days of, oh my God, M. Night Shyamalan is the master of twist endings. Those days are long gone behind us now. Now, of course, this is not the first time that Quentin Tarantino has thrown a curveball in his stories. Robert, you watched the movie? Yes, fantastic, right? Loved it, man. I'm a big fan. So this is not the first time that Quentin Tarantino has thrown a curveball. He's done twists, in his other movies too in the past. Especially, of course, Pulp Fiction, which has a lot of, you know, um, big reveals as you go along with the story because of the non-linear progression. Um, Robert says, like Inglorious Bastards. Yes, the twist in Inglorious Bastards as well. So, but this one in particular, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think you can agree with me. This one is his best twist yet, because what Quentin Tarantino basically did, and I have my notes here on my screen. Um, what he did is basically flip the history on its head. Like, um, what was supposed to happen was that Sharon Tate was supposed to be murdered by the Manson gang. Everybody inside that house, Sharon's house, because Roman Polanski is not in the house at the moment, or that evening. They got killed, and Sharon was like, historically, Sharon was like 8 months pregnant. It was very tragic death, and these, Charles Manson gang, they're just brutal people. That's what happened historically. But the twist in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, those Manson folks. Yes, Robert says it was an alternate timeline based on real events. Exactly. The twist is like the Manson people, instead of going to Sharon's house, they went they went instead to Rick Dalton's house, and unbeknownst to them, Rick Dalton's stunt double Cliff was also in the house with his dog. Oh my God, it was so funny. Yes, Robert, it was so brilliant. And this is not the first time Quentin Tarantino has done this on historical events. In Glorious Bastards, what happened there? The bastards killed Hitler. Like, remember that Hitler was on the balcony, and then freaking what's his name, Eli Roth, who plays Bear, and the other guy just busted in, the balcony, and just starts, like, with their machine gun blasted on Hitler. And in Django Unchained, after the whole 2 hours of brutality of slavery and the whole that man, I can't remember the name of on the top of my head right now, where Leonardo DiCaprio's character forces two slaves to fight each other to the death. Well, anyway, after that whole brutality thing, Jamie Foxx gets the upper hand, and he basically blasts everybody to hell. So Quentin Quentin loves flipping the script on you know what is supposed to happen in history. He loves the idea of, okay, maybe this is what happens, in the first 2 hours, but by the end, the good guys win. The good guys will beat the bad guys. And another reference I want to bring up also is the movie The Departed. That's not Quentin Tarantino movie, obviously, but it's Martin Scorsese. Um, but it's based on a Hong Kong or Asian thriller called Infernal Affairs. I saw Infernal Affairs before The Departed came out because I was curious to see, like, okay, so this is a remake. I wanted to see the original. Now I watched it once. My memory is a bit shady right now, but Infernal Affairs had a different ending. I believe the guy gets to live with his guilt, with his burden, whatever you want to call it. Whereas The Departed, you know, Mark Wahlberg at the end shoots Matt Damon point blank in the head. Now, so instead of Matt Damon goes off and feeling awful about what he did, so it's the idea of like, okay, we can't leave the ending like just him continuing on, or like, oh yes, I killed Leo, and yeah, I infiltrated the cop. Man, I'm such a bad guy. That's not cool. Martin Scorsese is like, no, I need to have an angel of death bringing judgment on this guy. You know, that angel of death, of course, is Mark Wahlberg. So he flips the script. So that's the big difference. One of the big differences compared to the original Infernal Affairs. So in that respect, Martin and Quentin share something similar. Like, oh yes, in Kill Bill Volume One, oh man, the bride doesn't get the upper hand, but in Volume Two, bam, she gets it, man. She gets it. David Carradine walks onto that grass and starts fumbling down or stumbling down, and bam, he dies. um, so yes, Robert, Infernal Affairs. That's right. That's right. Oh my God, I remember that movie vaguely because I only watched it once. So I love that. I love that whole twist in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's just like, because building up to that moment, Robert, and those of you who've seen the movie, you have this in your head, like, oh my God, are we gonna see Sharon Tate getting brutally murdered? You already kind of like, you already try to psychologically prepare yourself, right? Especially with that whole sequence of Brad Pitt's character Cliff Booth, um, in that compound, worried for his friend Bruce Dern's character Bob. I think his name is Bob. He's worried, like, oh my God, what did these hippies do to my friend Bob? Like, so you have this whole thing set up where you feel like, oh my God, the Charles Manson hippies are dangerous. We have to prepare ourselves for the worst. We have to brace ourselves for possibility of Quentin Tarantino showing us Sharon Tate and her friends getting murdered in that house, especially when the Manson gang, you know in in the dark of the night, start like walking slowly up, on that on that driveway to the house. You like already prepared yourself, like, oh my God, this is it. And in your head it's like, okay, because Quentin Tarantino is not afraid about gratuitous violence. So it's like, oh, he's gonna go graphic. He's gonna show it, man. He's gonna show Sharon Tate getting stabbed or whatnot. It's like, but bam, the Manson gang entered a different house, the Rick Dalton's house, and man, what an awesome, awesome turn of event that was! Holy crap! The dog, when it started biting, it's like, it was just like so loud. That girl screaming was like, ah, all the way into the water. It's like, ah, and she's still screaming in the water. Ah, oh, I was just like cracking up. I know, it's bad that I crack up at such a person being in pain and that excruciating agony like that. But it's funny. It's funny. Oh my God. Oh, and Brad Pitt's getting high, and but still, while he's high, he still gets his, kind of. he still understands what's going on. So he orders his dog to kill like everybody. It was funny, man. And like, what are the odds that freaking Rick Dalton still has that freaking flamethrower? But you kind of have to have seen that coming though, because in movies that's what they do. They would present um a scenario in the beginning that shows up again at the end, and that happens to be the flamethrower in this case. So I love it. Oh, I love the twist. Oh man. Robert says, "Who likes sauerkraut?" Oh, dog food, man. Holy crap. I feel kind of bad for the dog. That scene inside Cliff Booth's trailer park. Behind the drive-in theater. I feel like, man, really, that's all you could give to your dog, Cliff? Like, I know you're tight for money right now because you don't have a stunt double job, but still, though, man, that dog deserves better food. um okay, so so that's the big twist ending, right? That's the big thing, right off the bat, out of the park, that I wanted to discuss with you. Let's get to the next bullet point here. Quentin Tarantino loves feet. He loves feet. Quentin has an obsession, a fetish for feet. Remember Kill Bill? Wiggle your big toe, wiggle you big toe. And I believe there are other also scenes in other movies of his that kind of just flash feet for no reason. Um, in this one, it's like it, his feet, his feet fetish was like on crack. It was like the whole, like, we got a good, I want to say, 2 minutes of Margot Robbie's feet, and I think you can agree with me that her feet kind of look dirty inside that theater. And there's another scene also. I forgot what it was in this movie that also showed feet. Well, obviously, because the movie features hippies. So we have these characters who are unshaven, or they're just dirty or whatnot. But it's just funny. I think Quentin Tarantino. I don't know what Quentin Tarantino's obsession is with feet. But here's the thing. I'm more of a leg guy. All right. I like women's long, clean shaven, nice, lean legs wrap around me. All right. I love legs. I don't care for feet. So I don't know what Quentin sees in feet. I think feet are just ugly and they don't do shit. I'm more of a legs kind of guy. Uh, but Quentin loves feet. Just watch his other movies too. You'll know this as well. So okay, so the next bullet point here, um, Bruce Lee. Let's talk about Bruce Lee. Now, my friend Mike, he's also Asian like me. I'm Asian, and we look up to Bruce Lee as one of the like the gods of martial arts cinema. Along with um, Jet Li and all these other guys. What's his name? Crap. Oh, Iko Uwais or Tony Jaa. Bruce Lee is like the one that paved the way, right? So the depiction of Bruce Lee in this movie, my friend Mike said, my friend Mike thinks that the depiction is problematic. Um, in that maybe Bruce Lee was arrogant. Who knows? You know. But that whole fight scene with Cliff Booth indeed was a bit of an unfair fight. Um, at least the way Quentin Tarantino depicts it. It makes it out to be as if Bruce, the way he fights, tries to stay within the rules, but Cliff is like, this Asian guy, I'm just gonna throw him across the field and onto that freaking car. It's like I was like, what? It's I don't know what Quentin Tarantino has against Bruce Lee, but but I don't know. It just comes across as Bruce Lee doing his thing, but um Cliff is just like a freaking bull in a china shop. Just like just stampeding on Bruce Lee. It's like I thought you're having a, what do you call that? A friendly fight, right? Where you don't hit the face, you don't hit whatnot, and he just like throws him on the car. It's like, what the hell? Now, to Bruce's credit, though, when Kurt Russell and that lady director were shouting at Brad Pitt, or Cliff Booth, I should say, Bruce, I believe, if I remember correctly, said, hey, it's not his fault. I initiated the fight. It was my idea, something along those lines. Um, so even then, Bruce Lee's like, no, he comes off as the guy, like the way that fight is choreographed or orchestrated or staged. It it it, it sends a signal like, hey, if you fight fair, what happens is that you'll get thrown onto a car. So don't fight fair. I don't know. Um, I can see why that fight scene between Cliff Booth and Bruce Lee can come across as problematic to some audiences. Um, so yes, Robert says the real Bruce Lee would have killed Cliff. Yes, right. I was like, historically, we have this image of Bruce Lee being an invincible, unbeatable master, and Cliff just like throws him across the room like that. It just feeds into the idea of, oh yeah, whatever master of whatever you are, the white folks will still win. I'm not saying that is what Quentin Tarantino intentionally wants to get across to you guys, but that is what it appears to be, like, the perception of reality. And so I can see why the fight is very problematic. um and it definitely is insulting to Bruce Lee's legacy in a way. um Robert says another alternate timeline alteration. Yes, another alternate timeline alteration. But it's not like Cliff Booth is an actual character. It's not like, when you say alternate timeline alteration, my counter argument to that is like, okay, that would make sense, that argument, if Bruce Lee had a fight on the set of Green Hornet with some white dude, and then that white dude got replaced in the movie by Cliff Booth, in a twist of a plot. But that fight never happened, actually. But whereas Sharon Tate's murders actually happened. But yeah, but that is a pretty valid point, though, on your part, Robert. Um, Overall, before we move on to the next bullet point, is just, I don't know. I think I would love to interview Quentin Tarantino and ask him to dissect that scene further. Um, oh, Robert says of reality. Yes, I guess you could say it's an alternate timeline, or an alternate version of Bruce Lee. There you go, an alternate version of Bruce Lee. I would love to interview Quentin Tarantino and just pick his brain about that just one fight scene of Cliff Booth and Bruce Lee. What his intentions are with that one, um, and his process. And also, I want to ask him about his obsession with feet. So definitely, definitely, I would love. It would be the interview of the lifetime, of any lifetime. So okay, let's get to the next bullet points here. Hippies. Holy crap! What does Quentin have against hippies? Now, in his other movies, The Hateful Eight, um, Django Unchained, Kill Bill, um, Pulp Fiction. When if Quentin has something against gangsters or slave owners or racist folks, it seems understandable, right? Like, Like those people suck. Now hippies, I think is a bit of a mixed bag. All right. I'm not like crazy for them. Um, I'm more into clean, shave yourself, cut your hair kind of guy. But at the same time, hippies are about love and peace, man. Love and peace. So to kind of lump hippies into, oh, they're all this Manson gang, psychotic sheep, stuff like that. Not all hippies were like that. But man, Leonardo DiCaprio's character really, really hates hippies, man. That scene where the Manson gang was parked outside his house, and Rick Dalton's, looked out the windows like, freaking damn hippies. And then he got out and he's like, he confronted them. Oh man, he's just so gold. That scene was so gold. And Brad Pitt's character, Cliff Booth, actually did not have anything against hippies at first. He was kind of like, remember, he was kind of curious about this one woman. He was kind of flirting with her too. She's underage, so he's not gonna do anything with her. But he was like open to them, like, oh, this is a fascinating world that you guys live in. Peace. At one point he said like, peace, man. He did the whole sign thing. But as soon as he sensed that his friend Bob, that he sensed that they may have something, or they may have done something to his friends Bob, that's when his opinions about hippies change. And so it's fascinating. When it comes in the past, Quentin Tarantino says, Nazis are bad, slave owners are bad, mobsters are bad, and again, those are understandable. Those are bad people. Hippies to me is like, yeah, they're not all, they're not hippies are not all Manson people. But it's interesting how the movie really depicts them as something that's or a group of people that should be loathed or we hate. Robert says Quentin hates everyone. Now, let's get to the next bullet point. Now, if you remember, Quentin Tarantino loves nonlinear progressions, like Pulp Fiction, obviously, like Kill Bill. Sometimes the story takes us to this timeline, to that timeline before it goes back to the conclusion. In Pulp Fiction, when I've watched it the first time, it threw me off a bit when I was like, "Whoa, why did Bruce Willis kill John Travolta?" And then we see John Travolta again at the end. And then, of course, I put the two and two together. It's like, so the one at the end in the diner scene that happened before Julius retires from the mob. And so the moment when Bruce Willis kills Vincent, John Travolta's character, that was already after Julius left the mob. So it's like, okay, so Quentin Tarantino likes doing that. Now, in this one, though, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think this is actually a lot more straightforward than what Quentin Tarantino has done in the past in terms of nonlinear. I mean, really, the only probably um, timelines that we are taken back to involve Cliff Booth. The whole thing of why okay, so remember that scene where he was up on the roof fixing the antenna, and then bam, the next scene you see the whole thing with Kurt Russell and Bruce Lee. So it's not necessarily nonlinear, as in more of a flashback. you know so it's like it's just flashback showing you guys why he's not being hired anymore in the town or in that town. So, by the way, one of the flashbacks is pretty hilarious. We get to see the minutes right before Cliff accidentally or maybe purposely killed his wife with that, with that hunting spear, fish spear. Oh my god, I was just cracking up. And the fact that Quentin did not show that graphic, death, it made it even funnier. Because she was just like complaining. That wife is just complaining, like, "Oh, I knew I married a loser." I was like, and the wife is freaking hot, and Cliff is freaking hot, and I'm like, why are you complaining? You're married to a hottie, you're married to this stunt double who's freaking hot. But it goes to show, I guess, if you're married just for looks, it never lasts. There's always something else that you're gonna be see about him or her that you would find as shortcomings, and then you'll have those complaints. So I'm assuming that's what happens to this character, this woman. She's like, "Oh, I knew I should have listened to my parents. You were a loser. You're this." It's like, dude, you're freaking hot. She's hot. Just have sex already on the boat, and we'll call it a day. There'll be peace right there. But anyway, back to the nonlinear thing. It's more of a flashbacks here. I think for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, instead of jumping back and forth like that as far as timelines, it's more of a like, okay, here are the multiple storylines, and here are some of the backstories to those storylines, so as to help you understand where the characters are coming from. And so yeah, this is probably the most straightforward kind of movie that Quentin has ever given us before. Um, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It's refreshing, right? Let's get to the next bullet point here. Um, Robert says Quentin's movies are like a crazy acid trip. The real talk is here. I felt that was his imagination because of that fact that he sent Bruce Lee flying to a car and denting it. Dude, seriously, right? That Bruce Lee, man. That alternate version of Bruce Lee. It just it's such an insult to the legacy or what we have in our heads about Bruce Lee over the years. He's so unbeatable, invincible, and Cliff Booth is just like throwing him like a freaking piece of paper, man. It's just like, it hurts for a Bruce Lee fan. For all of us Bruce Lee's fans out there, it does hurt seeing Bruce Lee treated that way. Maybe that's the intention of it. Quentin Tarantino wants to like, it's like, oh, this is your god. All right, here's what I do to your god. Oh man. Real talk says exactly. I was like, nah, Bruce would never lose or act like that. Exactly, right? But Quentin's like, oh yes, here's what I just did to your god in my movies. Um, okay, so the next bullet point is the landmarks and the street names. I love how the camera, if you notice, like that one scene where Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate were, driving in their car, and they're driving really fast, and they're about to make that left turn up to the up on the road, into their driveway or their complex, as you say, and then the camera pans up to show you the name of the street, to let you, the audience, know, oh, this is, the location where Sharon Tate historically gets murdered. And there are some other parts too where I think where the camera would slowly pans, it would show something, and then it slowly pans to show you, oh, that's where it is in LA. I remember that spot. Now, one of the landmarks visibly shown for reals in this movie is obviously the Fox Theater, Westwood Village Theater. I think it's owned by Regency now. It's in downtown LA. It's been around since 1930s. It got remodeled several times over the years in the 40s and the 80s as well. And so that is the theater that Sharon Tate, Margot Robbie's character, you know, she stops by there. She asks for the theater. Hey, I'm in the movie. Can I see the movie for free? And I gotta say, I wonder. Here's another thing I would ask Quentin Tarantino too. if I ever get to interview him. I don't know, which probably will never happen. But I would ask him about the feet obsession, right? The feet obsession. What is up with you and feet? Wiggle you big toe. I would ask him about the Bruce Lee and Cliff Booth fight scene, and then I would ask him like, "Hey, did you did you have the city of Los Angeles close up that whole section outside the Westwood, Bruin Village Theater, for a couple of days of your shooting? I don't know. What did you do there?" I'm like, how did you? Because you know, when you see the movie, you see the streets filled with antique cars and cars from the 60s and 70s. And then I remember there's a scene in the movie as well, if you recall, where Rick Dalton takes the ramp and goes onto the freeway, and then the camera pans back and you see the freeway, and it's all cars of the 60s and 70s. So I figured it might be CG a little bit, but the Westwood thing, I don't know. I want to ask him like, how did you that whole couple of days of shooting there? What was that like? Did you close up the whole section? I'm really, really curious. I hope that they show it in the bonus features when they come out with the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood Blu-ray, because I would love to see it. Um, her feet were dirty. The real talk says yes. Silo Drive or something like that. Exactly, the street name. Yes, her feet were dirty. And the real talk, I just mentioned to Robert earlier that Quentin has an obsession with feet. Like the Kill Bill, Wiggle You Big Toe, and some other movies that he's done as well. And I mentioned that I'm more of a legs guy. I love legs. I like women legs, clean shaven, nice long lean legs wrapped around me. I don't care for feet. I think feet are ugly and they don't do shit. So I'm really curious as to why Quentin Tarantino loves feet. All right, so let's get to the next bullet point. Margot Robbie. Now, the criticisms out there is that Margot Robbie doesn't get enough lines or enough to do in this movie. And you know what? Having seen the film, I think you and I can kind of agree to that criticism. Yes, Margot Robbie is an Oscar nominee. She's a big name. She should get to do more than just what you see in the movie, right? That's a fair point. Um, but an argument can also be made that, hey, it's not a Margot Robbie movie. This is not Harley Quinn. This is a Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio movie. Now, um, I think the whole thing with Sharon Tate, again, it's just a way to set up for us, the audiences, because I mentioned earlier, like, oh my God, we have this thing in our heads. Oh, are we gonna see Sharon Tate getting brutally murdered by the Manson gang? And then we have that whole scene with Cliff Booth in the compound, fearful for his friend Bob's safety, like, oh my, concern for his friend's Bob. It's like, oh my God, what did you guys do to Bob? So that whole thing has been building up to like to prepare us, the audience, for the worst. I think that's what Margot Robbie Sharon Tate's purpose is in the film. It's just for that. It's another, you know, to kind of like to lead you one way before Quentin Tarantino throw the curveball with his twist or with his alternate reality twist. So that's her only purpose, really. But do I think that Margot Robbie did a good job as Sharon Tate? Hell yes, hell yes. I think I would not be surprised if she got Oscar nominated for this one. Maybe you can say, hey, that's not fair. She doesn't get to do much. Like it's not really a one. I mean, it's not really a character with many layers. It seems one dimensional. That's a fair point, fair argument. But I remember Judi Dench won Oscar for Shakespeare in Love, and she only had what, maybe 6 minutes in that movie. I want to say. So stranger things have happened. I would not put it past the Academy, recognizing Margot Robbie in the role of Sharon Tate. because I think for what she did, for the purpose that she served in that movie, she did a bang up job. Um, and she looks the part too. You see the scenes of Sharon Tate's actual movie playing on the big screen, right? You see how she looks like, and then camera pans to like or cuts to Sharon Tate like a kid in a candy store, all geeking out, watching herself on the big screen. I was like, dude, they look alike. So the casting itself doesn't get any better than that. But I think she did a fantastic job in that role. Now Leonardo DiCaprio. Let's talk about that. This is the second to last point. Leonardo DiCaprio is amazing, amazing. Sid Vicious says the movie is overrated because I think people are reacting this way because it's directed by Tarantino. If anyone else made the same movie, then the reviews would be much different. Okay, uh, you're entitled to your opinion. I think I would have to say agree to disagree, Sid Vicious. I think this is Quentin Tarantino's best work yet, and his most entertaining comedy yet. Robert says, I met the Manson women when I was a correctional officer at California Institution for Women, Susan Atkins. Oh, really? Robert, wow, you met them. Wow. And what was your impression of them? Um, what's your opinion of them having met them? Or was it just like a glance thing that you didn't really have a full on conversation with them, like maybe just briefly kind of thing? So I'm curious. I'm really curious. What do you think of them? Jim Milton says this is my first Tarantino movie and loved it. Yes, thank you, Jim. Oh, such a fantastic film. Okay, so my second to last point here. Leonardo DiCaprio is amazing. Is amazing in this movie. Holy crap! That scene that he had with that little girl, little kid. As they sit next to each other. Oh, so gold, so gold. And that little girl is amazing too. She could be like the next uh Haley Steinfeld. Remember when Haley Steinfeld burst into the scene in the movie True Grit in 2010? Everybody was like blown away. It's like, whoa, who is this girl? She's amazing. That's how I felt about this one. And that scene that they shared together. Remember when he was holding a gun to her head, and then Luke Perry's character came in, like, oh yeah, you're the messenger. To tell your boss. That whole scene was amazing. All right, and then right at the end when Leonardo DiCaprio was doing his kind of like because the director says like, okay, do the Hamlet kind of sitting way style. Oh, dude. Oh, and that scene when Leonardo DiCaprio forgets his lines. Oh, and he gets frustrated every time he forgets his line. Leonardo makes that whole thing seem like he makes it so convincing, like one of those actors who's just so like they beat themselves up over the fact that they can't remember their lines. His face turns red. His eyes turn kind of teary a little bit. He's just like so pissed off and like pissed off at himself. Like, oh my god, I'm already a has been, right? That's already bad enough, a has been, and now I can't even remember my line. What am I? So, dude, Leonardo DiCaprio is amazing. Now, I remember for the longest time, people say, "Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio is fantastic at drama, but he never did comedy. He's not that versatile." People say that, and then bam, Wolf of Wall Street came, and what happened? He won Golden Globe for best comedy. Granted, though, Golden Globe is not, don't don't take that too hard because Golden Globe also thinks The Martian with Matt Damon was a comedy. So, but still, what I meant was, or my point was that Leonardo DiCaprio can be funny, and once again, he is funny in this movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Oh, remember Wolf of Wall Street? He was trying to he was high and he was trying to open his Lamborghini door with his legs. Oh, dude, that whole sequence was amazing. Oh man, what a great actor. Leonardo DiCaprio is the kind of guy that can do whatever shit you throw at him. Like, hey, DiCaprio, do this, and he'll do it. Yeah. Love. It. I mentioned in my review. It feels like a privilege. It feels like beholding a diamond or something rare, a gemstone, whatever. It feels like an honor and a privilege just watching Leonardo DiCaprio do what he does, especially in this movie. It's just so the range, man. From being furious, from being fearful for his career, from being an emotional wreck, for all the way till being playful and being it's just such a range, such a fantastic range that you see of Leonardo DiCaprio in this film. I cannot praise him enough. Um, if he doesn't end up getting at least Oscar nominated for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I would I would throw a temper tantrum. um, so Robert says, I talked with them. Atkins has some attitude. Krenwinkel and Van Houten were respectful towards me and other staff. Okay, that's interesting. Thank you for that tidbit, brother, for that information. And I know you work in that field, so wow, you must have met some really fascinating characters. Three of whom are those women, Manson gang. So, all right. So, lastly, my final bullet point: it's a comedy about friendship. That's what Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is. All right. So don't expect it to be something or anything heavy. And you know what? To be fair, Quentin Tarantino never actually did anything too heavy in the past. I mean, you can argue like uh, the brutality of slave ship, slave ownership, I should say, owning. What the hell? The the Mandingo wrestle, that was hard to watch in Django Unchained. All right, um, that was hard to watch, but I think Quentin Tarantino in his movies generally um, have always had a sense of humor that not dry but peculiar. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. Even in Django Unchained, um, it there were times when his humor in the movie sometimes it's about roasting some of the characters. um, in this case, of course, roasting Bruce Lee as one example. Um, so, but but it's not like it's not like Quentin Tarantino made what's the example I can throw here? It's not like Quentin Tarantino made The Hours. Remember The Hours with Nicole Kidman and Julianne Moore and Meryl Streep? So it's not like Quentin Tarantino ever made such a heavy, dragging kind of drama. You know what I'm saying? Or Still Alice. That's another Julianne Moore movie. So yes, he would get graphic. He would get violent in his films, or the characters would. Um, but it never really it never gets you to feel down the entire time. Now, I think this is his most entertaining work yet. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is like it's full on comedy. It's just full on comedy. And it's about these friends, these two best friends, Cliff Booth and Rick Dalton. And Cliff is so chill. He is just so chill. I mean, if I was Cliff, I probably would have been pissed off about having to be Rick Dalton's errand boy the entire time. But Cliff, as you can see in the movie, he doesn't mind. He never minds. He's like he loves being, oh yeah, what? I should fix the antenna, or like, you what? You want me to fix the pipe drain? Yeah, yeah, yeah. No worries. I got you, man. I got you. Uh, so Cliff and Rick Dalton may have problems with hippies, but Cliff is as chill as a hippie can get, man. That brother, that brother is so carefree. Okay, A lot of us would probably already quit our job. Like Cliff doesn't even like Cliff. At one point, he asks Rick Dalton's like, "Hey, can you put in a good word for me? Can you get me this stunt double job on this set?" And then Rick Dalton, what you remember what he says? Like, the guy in charge is that guy on the Green Hornet, and yeah, I don't think I don't think it's gonna happen, man. Sorry. And but you know what? Can you check my antenna, dude? I would have been pissed if I was Cliff. I would have been pissed. Like, really? You can't get me a gig, and now you want me to fix your antenna? But so, but it's just I love how it the movie doesn't shove its bromance on us, or it doesn't shove bromance down our throats. Other movies are like, hey, this is about these two best buds, and you will know that it's about these two best buds. But that's not how it is with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. um, you kind of wonder the whole time too why they still stick around for each other. The movie doesn't really show us why that is. Why Cliff is so loyal to a T to Rick Dalton, and why Rick Dalton likes having Cliff around. But it's just one of those things where it's like they're like a married couple, not married couple bickering, arguing married couple, but the married couple, the other kind of married couple where and I have these people in my family where they could, I kid you not, where the husband and the wife could sit down on a couch, not on their phones, they're probably watching TV, and they don't talk to each other for the next couple of hours, and they'll be okay with that. And they're okay with that. They have gotten to the point in their marital relationship where they're okay, or they're comfortable with not having to always talk to each other beyond, like, oh, love you, and then kiss you, oh, gotta go to work, goodbye. That's the level of comfort that I think Rick and Cliff have for each other. You might not see, or the movie doesn't show why Cliff likes driving Rick around, why Rick you know says, yeah, you can come over to my house, you can, yeah, let's watch FBI together, like, yeah, you can fix your cocktail here, while my wife is sleeping, while I'm in the swimming pool practicing my line. Yeah, just, mikasa esukasa. They've gotten to that point where, hey, you know what, we just are. And I love that. So it doesn't force the bromance down our throats, like, oh, here we go, these are two best buds, and we're gonna keep showing you they're two best buds. They just are, man. And so it's a comedy about friendship. At the end, when Rick says to Cliff's like, hey, you know what, you're a good friend, and Cliff says back, I try. That's when I was like, oh, that's the whole point of the whole movie, and Quentin doesn't have to try too hard to shove that down our throats. It's just fantastic. I love the relationship of Cliff Booth and Rick Dalton in this one. It's so subtle and nice, and just it's endearing, man. It's endearing. It's the kind of relationship you want to have with your pals, best friends, and your spouse too. So cool, so cool. Okay, so that's it. Those are all the bullet points that I have in this spoiler discussion. Um, Sid Vicious says he sort of ripped off Inglourious Basterds with that ending. Such a cheap job. But why aren't critics calling him out for copying his other movies? Am I in a different world? Well, agree to disagree. I think I don't know if this answers your question, Sid, but if 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 you're saying that Quentin Tarantino basically rehashed his own thing, um, an argument can be made like, okay, that's his prerogative because in Bastards and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and all these movies are his movies, so maybe that's his signature style. He likes his movies or his stories to go out not only with a bang, but in this wild, loud, outrageous, shenanigan kind of way. Just like in Glorious Bastards, where like, oh, let's just burn down the whole thing. In this one, it's like, yeah, let's just kill the hippies. Um, Quentin Tarantino loves that. And what can I say? If he wants to carry that same style, that those are his movies. Other filmmakers have their own signature styles, so that that same thread or pattern that you see in their movies. So I find this film to be very entertaining. I think Quentin Tarantino deserves another Oscar nod for best screenplay. He's already won two for best script in the past, Pulp Fiction and Django Unchained. So yeah, he deserves another one. Oh, such a great movie. 2 hours and 40 minutes fly by just like that. I would watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood again and again. So go check it out. It's the biggest. Yeah, it's the only big movie that opens nationwide this weekend. The other ones play limited release. The other movies. So go check out Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and your local theaters, and then come back and share your thoughts in the comment section down below what you think of it. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in on this special spoiler discussion of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Everybody that's chatting with me, Sid Vicious, Robert, Real Talk, Jim Milton. Thank you so much for stopping by. And as always, subscribe, press that like button, ring that bell, and now I need to get some breakfast. Let's rock this.